For decades, America's foreign policy followed predictable patterns, standing by allies and deterring adversaries. But under Donald Trump, this framework is being fundamentally challenged. His administration has frozen aid to Ukraine, imposed new tariffs on Canada, and questioned the very value of the US-Japan Defense Treaty that has anchored Pacific security since 1960. This isn't just diplomatic reshuffling, it's potentially a historic transformation of the international order that has maintained relative stability for over 75 years. But what drives this approach, and what might it mean for America and the world? Trump's foreign policy has puzzled analysts since his first term, appearing at times contradictory and unpredictable. Some see it as isolationist withdrawal, others as aggressive nationalism, while many struggle to identify any consistent doctrine at all. Three distinct frameworks help us understand Trump's approach, the art of the deal mindset, that views international relations as transactions to be won, the Make America Great Again nationalist agenda prioritizing domestic interests, and the stable genius perspective emphasizing Trump's personal judgment over institutional expertise. What makes this foreign policy particularly consequential is its potential to permanently alter America's role in the world. Traditional allies are questioning reliability, adversaries are testing boundaries, and the post-World War II international order faces unprecedented strain. Today, we'll explore what's driving Trump's alliance approach, how it impacts different regions, and what potential futures it might create for global security and economic systems. Understanding Trump's foreign policy requires historical context. After World War II, America constructed an international system based on military alliances, trade agreements, and international institutions. This wasn't purely altruistic. It created markets for American goods, contained communist expansion, and established unprecedented global influence. The system rested on what analysts call America's superpower stacked defense, treaties like NATO, trade deals, nuclear deterrence, and the dollar-based financial system. For decades, this framework delivered mutual benefits. Allies gained security while America extended its global reach at lower cost than going it alone. Trump's first term revealed skepticism toward this inheritance. He questioned NATO's value, withdrew from agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and Iran nuclear deal, and imposed tariffs on allies and adversaries alike. But his current approach goes further, treating long-standing alliances not as strategic assets, but as liabilities. This represents more than tactical adjustments. It reflects a fundamentally different view of America's global role. While previous administrations valued predictability and institutional continuity, Trump prioritizes flexibility, leverage, and visible wins. Trump entered office with limited foreign policy experience, like many presidents before him. But unlike predecessors who typically adopted existing frameworks, his administration has pursued what scholars describe as a low conceptual complexity approach, preferring direct transactional dealings over complex multilateral arrangements. Trump and his supporters argue that America has been exploited by allies who underinvest in defense while benefiting from American protection. They point to NATO members failing to meet defense spending targets and trade deficits with allies like Japan and Germany. From this perspective, strong-arming allies is necessary to correct imbalances and ensure America isn't taken advantage of. Supporters cite the proposed Ukraine ceasefire as evidence that Trump's pressure tactics achieve results that traditional diplomacy cannot. Critics, including many diplomats from both parties, see Trump's approach as dangerously short-sighted. They argue the post-World War II alliance system has delivered unprecedented peace and prosperity, while extending American influence far beyond what military power alone could achieve. From this viewpoint, America's alliance network is its greatest strategic asset, one being damaged for minimal short-term gains. While some allies may make tactical concessions under pressure, the erosion of trust undermines America's long-term position. A third framework comes from realist scholars who see Trump's policies as responding to changing global power dynamics. With China's rise and shifting threats, some recalibration of America's commitments was inevitable. However, many realists question whether Trump's methods, unpredictable, personalized, and often contradictory, serve strategic interests effectively. This perspective suggests America needs targeted adjustment of its commitments rather than broad alliance disruption. Trump's skepticism toward NATO represents his most dramatic break with traditional American policy. Though previous administrations also pushed for increased European defense spending, Trump has questioned the alliance's fundamental value and has not contradicted suggestions America should withdraw completely. The results are mixed. European defense spending has increased, with more members approaching NATO's 2% GDP target. However, European leaders are openly discussing strategic autonomy and preparing for potential American disengagement. France and Germany have accelerated defense integration plans. Discussions about a European nuclear deterrent, building on France's arsenal, have moved from fringe to mainstream policy conversations. The European Union is also considering expanded joint debt issuance to finance defense, a significant step toward greater integration. Trump's Ukraine policy exemplifies his transactional approach. By freezing aid and pushing for a ceasefire potentially favoring Russia, Trump signals decreased willingness to support Ukraine against Russian aggression. European nations are increasing their own support but lack America's resources. Ukraine faces difficult choices about potential territorial concessions, while Russia receives signals that patience might ultimately be rewarded if American resolve wavers. In Asia, Trump's questioning of the US-Japan Defense Treaty, a cornerstone of Pacific security since 1960, has alarmed regional allies. Japan, South Korea, Australia and others have relied on American security guarantees to deter aggression from China and North Korea. Japan has begun its largest military build-up since World War II in response. South Korea is expanding its defense capabilities, with some analysts suggesting it may reconsider its non-nuclear status if American protection becomes less reliable. Taiwan, already vulnerable, faces even greater uncertainty about American support against potential Chinese aggression. Trump's economic approach applies to allies and adversaries alike. New tariffs on Canadian goods, threats against European and Asian partners, and pressure on foreign companies to relocate to America have disrupted established economic relationships. Markets have reacted negatively to renewed trade tensions. Supply chains face further disruption after already being strained by the pandemic and earlier trade conflicts. Allies are exploring economic countermeasures, including targeting American imports in vulnerable sectors and developing alternatives to dollar-dominated systems. Significantly, allies are identifying economic choke points, areas where America depends on foreign suppliers for critical goods like pharmaceuticals, specialized metals, and semiconductor manufacturing equipment. These could potentially be leveraged in future disputes, though escalation remains a last resort. The implications of Trump's approach extend beyond bilateral relationships, potentially reshaping the international system itself. Trump has consistently preferred bilateral dealings where America's size gives it leverage over multilateral forums where compromise is necessary. This undermines global governance structures that, while imperfect, provide frameworks for addressing transnational challenges from climate change to nuclear proliferation. As international institutions weaken, global problems requiring coordinated responses become harder to address. The system fragments into competing blocks with fewer shared rules and norms. Perhaps most concerning is increased nuclear proliferation risk. America's security umbrella has incentivized allies to forego nuclear weapons development. As confidence in that protection erodes, countries facing significant threats may reconsider their non-nuclear status. South Korea and Japan could move closer to nuclear capability as insurance against abandonment. Such developments would fundamentally alter regional security dynamics and potentially trigger cascading proliferation as neighboring states respond. As America's alliance system weakens, alternative power centers gain influence. China stands to benefit from fragmented opposition to its regional ambitions if America's Asian allies can no longer coordinate effectively. Russia similarly gains leverage if NATO cohesion continues to erode. Regional powers like Turkey, India, and Saudi Arabia may find more room to pursue independent agendas as American influence recedes. This leads to a more multipolar, but potentially less stable, international order. The integrated global economy faces new pressures toward fragmentation. Supply chains are being reconfigured for resilience rather than efficiency. Financial systems exploring alternatives to dollar dominance represent a significant shift in global economic architecture. Complete decoupling remains unlikely, but we may see more regionalized economic blocs with higher barriers between them, a partial reversal of globalization trends that have shaped the world economy for generations. Based on current trends, several potential futures emerge for the international system under continued Trump foreign policy. In this future, America's allies successfully adapt to decreased American reliability by strengthening their own capabilities and forming tighter regional groupings. Europe accelerates defense integration and economic sovereignty. Asian democracies establish closer security ties with each other. America remains engaged globally, but on more limited terms. The result is a more balanced relationship between America and its allies, with the liberal international order modified but intact. A more pessimistic scenario sees accelerating dissolution of the international order. American alliances deteriorate beyond recovery. Nuclear proliferation accelerates as countries seek independent deterrence. Economic nationalism creates competing trade blocs. China establishes regional hegemony in Asia. Europe struggles for unity against Russian pressure and internal divisions. International cooperation on global challenges from climate change to terrorism becomes increasingly difficult. A third possibility is that current trends prove temporary. Domestic political shifts, recognition of disengagement costs, or external crises could lead to a renewed American commitment to global leadership, albeit on different terms than before. In this scenario, alliance damage proves repairable. Allies maintain sufficient capability to bridge periods of American retrenchment. The basic structures of the post-World War II order adapt rather than collapse. This would require significant policy shifts, however, and becomes less likely the longer current trends continue. Trump's foreign policy represents more than stylistic changes. It challenges fundamental assumptions about America's role that have guided international relations for generations. For allies, the implications are profound and already driving significant strategic adjustments. The question isn't whether the international order will change. It's already changing. The question is whether these changes lead to a new stable equilibrium or increasing instability. Much depends on how allies respond and whether they can develop capabilities and relationships to maintain stability with less reliable American leadership. What's clear is that we're witnessing a historic inflection point in international relations. The decisions by American leaders and their counterparts worldwide in coming years will shape the global landscape for decades. The stakes for security, prosperity, and democracy could hardly be higher. The post-war international order wasn't perfect, but it helped prevent great power conflicts and spread prosperity more widely than ever before. Its erosion carries real risks beyond diplomatic disagreements or trade disputes. Understanding these dynamics isn't just academic, it's essential for citizens and leaders navigating this uncertain future. What do you think? Is Trump's approach a necessary recalibration or dangerous withdrawal? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more in-depth geopolitical analysis.